Sure, y'all can hear me. Welcome to Inside the Program Live, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Joe Cook. That's Eric Nalleen. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, you got to head to InsideTexas.com. Use that first link in our description. Use that QR code there at the top left of the screen. Sign up for just $1. We've been bringing recruiting news all week. Justin and I will be back here a bit later today to talk a little bit about some of the most recent news. Visitors coming in, 5 stars, out-of-state guys, lots of people getting on planes to come see the Longhorns. So we'll have that later this afternoon. But we got so much going on, everything from off-season workouts to basketball to baseball. May even have a few other sports talked about. So make sure you come to Inside Texas, join for just $1. We know you're going to want to stick around because we are not far from spring practice, Eric. But before
let me preempt real quick. We got to talk about recruiting for a second. Now, not any individual recruit necessarily, but I'm in Dallas right now. I met with some donors, whatever. There's an overlap there, and they just want to know what I know, and I want to know what they know, obviously. This I get asked the question a lot lately: is does recruiting still matter? Hell yes, recruiting matters. Are you crazy? Yeah, look at the roster. They recruited Arch Manning. I mean, they recruited. Yeah. Ryan Wingo, they recruited Trevor Gooseby. They recruited, much of the defense. I mean, recruiting does matter, and it's always going to matter. Now, if you want to tune it out during parts of the calendar, I understand that. I get that. But recruiting is always going to matter, and it still matters every bit as much as it used to. You just have to go about building your roster a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think one of the ways that's most evident, and you mentioned it with Arch Manning, you can even mention it with the whole quarterback room. And that's just what the position is. And you're going to build most of your roster with recruiting. You can add some guys from the portal. They did it with Matt Caldwell, did it with MJ Morris. But recruiting is always going to be important, especially at the quarterback position. That's one of the things that you touched on over the course of the past week. You had a roster audit. You've had a whole roster audit series looking at each position, kind of bouncing back and forth between offense and defense. And you finally get the signal caller.
I did offensive line last on purpose.
Right. And so we know a lot about Arch Manning. We've talked about that a ton. It's a big year for him as he gets ready for everybody expects it to be his last year in burnt orange. But there are still places where he can take a step and help lead other guys in that room who may look like the future.
Yeah. I mean, he's having to be more of a vocal leader right now he's a little sidelined with his minor foot injury. But that's actually a good segue into KJ Lacey, which we have noted as a highlight to talk about. KJ is having a really good offseason. They really like what they saw from KJ last year based on his time on scout team. He kind of bounced between regular team and scout team last year. But, yeah, he was under pressure sometimes last year in practice, and they feel he responded well. He throws a really good deep ball, and he's really good thinking on his feet and improvising, which they really love. Every coach loves a quarterback that can make him look great even when the play call breaks down or is a bad play call to begin with. And so KJ has that improv ability. We've seen Arch. We know Arch has that. But KJ can keep plays alive with his legs. And I think he's got the leadership intangibles as well. But with Arch a little bit limited right now, KJ's throwing with the receivers, and he looks dang good. They like him. Now, I haven't heard a whole lot about MJ Morris yet. Don't have a really good feel for him. But I do think that KJ can be a capable backup this season if needed. Now, obviously, they can't run the whole slate with him. But if you need to steal a game, last year Arch started every game, right, even after the concussion. But if Arch is forced to miss a game this season, I think KJ can come in and fill in capably.
KJ was one of the first players to really stand as maybe or be evidence of the shift for Steve Sarkisian in going from, okay, guys who just sit in the pocket, try to do their best from the pocket, and then work as best they need to outside of that. Arch is just kind of in his own category because he's a 1-1 type prospect. We've seen his athletic ability against Michigan, against Texas A&M, but KJ was someone that felt like even if his athletic measurables aren't like fantastic, you could tell by watching him in high school. And then, what we've seen in some glimpse of practice from the opportunities we've seen with him there, that he's mobile enough to do what Sark wants him to do, maybe. And then whenever things go off schedule, he's still mobile enough to be like, okay, here's 7 yards or something like that.
I think he's legitimately athletic. I think it's like Bryce Young, where everybody said, Bryce Young didn't rush for a whole lot of yards. Well, we saw firsthand when he made some plays in 2022. Was that 2022? Yeah. Where he made plays with his legs where he's just athletic. He's a dual threat. KJ is a legit dual threat. He didn't run a lot in high school, Sark is not going to ask him to run a lot, but when the play breaks down, it's going to be there for him. And a lot of these wide receivers are sort of downfield threats. That's going to carry the DBs with them. There's going to be some available yards to whoever's running, who's ever at quarterback. But I think KJ is legitimately athletic. I think he was undersold out of high school just because he didn't run much. But when you did see him move in high school, he looked athletic. I would bet that he puts up a pretty damn good shuttle run, which would indicate his initial quickness. And you want that initial quickness when it comes to escaping the pocket.
One of the other things that you noted in that audit is just the great shape that this room is in. The fact that you have Morris there to kind of be a safety net if you even need him. Lacey developing, and then Diabell there in his first semester on campus. A lot of times this is still just getting the lay of the land and understanding what it's like, but this is a good quarterback room. And even to go into recruiting a little bit, you noted just how perfect Ty Knutson fits into this class and setting up a really strong quarterback room for the future.
Yeah, what they're looking for in this class is it's going to change every class at quarterback. It's kind of like an every other year sort of situation. You're not likely to get a 5-star. I don't even think you want a 5-star quarterback in this class because you can't afford them. You can't pay an expensive quarterback to sit on the bench. That doesn't make any sense. So they invested heavily in Dia last year. And then, like we said, we got KJ, which, KJ was fairly highly rated, probably underrated. And so this year it's like, okay, who's more of the economical take, but also that it has traits. I think Knutson has the winner traits. Obviously, they just won state. His team's won state back-to-back. He led them this year. And then he's got the passing traits and just enough athleticism, I think, to make it interesting to where you can call him as a constraint. You can call a run if the defense is going to give it to you, or he can make plays if it breaks down. Not exactly a dynamic athlete, but a good enough athlete. So I think he's perfect for what the class needs. We got a really good question here from Jeff Grimes.
Yeah, wanted to bring this up. And this says, are donors more interested in contributing to portal acquisitions, or do they not have a preference and just really trust what Sark wants and needs?
Yeah, typically it just kind of goes towards all roster management. I don't know anybody that really. Yeah, I think there will be, if there's a target that really galvanizes the donors, like everybody's like, all right, well, let's, if we can go get Cam Coleman, let's go get Cam Coleman. And there are people that will step up on a certain guy and say, or a certain position. I heard of, one guy made a very generous donation this past, during the season, but it was for the portal specifically on O-line after they had some O-lines. And I think this guy might have actually played O-line in the past, but so there, every once in a while it will be for a specific need, but more globally, it's just, hey, roster management, let's go get the high school guys that we need, and let's go get the portal guys that we need. And, the portal guys, we won't really know the portal needs until, the season. This year they knew in September they had to pull back in recruiting because they needed more immediate help. And then we saw them go and get a lot more immediate help in the portal. So it just kind of differs, but most of them are just, hey, here's some money for roster management.
That's those last two words are key. Like, there's recruiting, there's portal. It's all part of the same process now. It's roster management.
It's all
those donation dollars go to the same process. It's just where you're allocating it. Are you giving it to guys who are, finishing up calculus in high school, or are you giving it to guys who are?
You think how many of them are taking calculus? I didn't. Did you take calculus?
I took calculus in high school.
Yeah,
that's why I always make that joke. Imagine having to go, different subject, but it's like, imagine having to go read Pride and Prejudice during the day and then having to tackle Derrick Henry if you're some kid at Alabama, something things like that. So
I don't know, man. I might rather tackle Derrick Henry than read Pride and Prejudice. I'm just kidding. Yeah, don't want to offend is it Jane Eyre? Jane Eyre wrote that, I think.
Your Spark Notes wrote it for me. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor. That is Academy.
Fast one.
Same day delivery powered by DoorDash.
As it stands right now, I believe Steve Sarkisian is on a little family vacation. Used to, that was a July thing. Now, in between the season, portal, recruiting, and then the start of spring ball, coaches try to sneak some time in right now. So I think Sark's enjoying a little bit of R&R. But that means that there's someone still there in the facility kind of leading the way for things. Not kind of leading the way for things. We touched on this a little bit last week, and you even wrote some about it with how Will Muschamp, as head coach of the defense, is occupying a big role for Sark in the building as far as schematics and handling that side of the ball. But there's also an element that Muschamp brings not only from the clipboard breaking guy, but just another really strong voice in the building who has that head coach experience, has that leadership experience, and that's being seen here in late February with the program working through the end of off-season workouts.
Yeah, Muschamp was a big topic last night too, hanging out with those guys. I don't want to say this is like disrespectful to Sark because it's his team 1,000%, right? I mean, it's his team. There's no doubt about it. But it does feel like they're kind of like two head coaches in the building because Muschamp gets the respect of the offensive guys, but he does an exceptional job of connecting with the defensive players, and he was doing this. I mean, right out of the gates. He was doing it even before he was announced as the new defensive coordinator. He's trying to build relationships. He is nonstop. He's tireless about this. So I think there's kind of two. There's the public sentiment that we all have, the narrative of him being, a little bit unhinged at times, due to the famous, breaking the whiteboard and all that. And he is that guy as well. But that translates to football players. These are young, aggressive kids that will feed off of that. But he goes a lot deeper than that with relationship building. So it's, he doesn't just get people roped in through his intensity. I think it's through his sincerity as well. And he's doing a great job. You could see how I didn't cover the team in 2008, and so I didn't have sort of the inside view that I have now. But I can now I hear something and I go, okay, well, it's quite obvious how he had the effect on the team that he had back in 2008 when he first arrived, and he sort of replaced Vince as sort of the fiery impulse of the program. And I think he's adding that now at the perfect time when Sark is looking to infuse some physicality and some intensity and maybe a little bit more vocal leadership on that side. So right now, I think it's a match made in heaven. Every day we get a new anecdote of something that he's doing to connect with his players, but also they're going through a lot of install as well. I'm really excited to follow. I'm more excited to follow the defense in spring, just because I think the offense is going to be a little bit sloppier. But I'm really excited to see the direction this defense goes. He's got the personnel. I think he's already got the buy-in, and now he's just got to make sure that he's coaching them up and teaching them within the schemes.
That's the important off-field stuff. On-field, bringing in that new defense. And right after we're done with this show, Ian and Homer and Pack are going to start recording something for tomorrow about just another element of that Muschamp defense for a video that comes out tomorrow. So lots of stuff going on for Muschamp and the rest of the program. And some of the important additions, and whether, again, by recruiting or via the transfer portal, are from that defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about a wide variety of guys, but those guys are going through off-season workouts. They're entering a phase. I mean, I would have to assume they're trying to get to like a more of a testing phase at this point after going through strength and the morning runs and all that stuff. And there have been a few guys smattered throughout both sides of the ball who've earned some positive reviews from people inside Texas has talked to over the past week or so.
Yeah, Cohen Brown hit the magical number. We consider 22 miles per hour to be genuinely fast. There's no faking your way to 22 miles per hour. 21.5, that's good. That's fast enough. That's where a lot of the skill players find themselves. But once you get to 22, I think Xavier and Jordan Whittington were always around 22.4, 22.3. Once you hit 22, you're just legitimately fast. That's Ryan Niblett, Xavier Phillips to me, that sort of speed. And we're hearing that right now with Cohen Brown, which you love. I mean, go put on the tape. He plays fast. He ran fast. I think he was 10.600. And then you see that build. He is well put together. People are saying, hey, he might have a little Debo to him. I'm not sure Debo runs 22 miles an hour. But that physicality, that running style reminded some people. So I'm really excited. His tape was really good. I thought he flew under the radar as a recruit. I didn't understand why why USC didn't try to keep him. To me, I mean, look, they just got Tanook Hines the year before. I think this guy looks a little bit more complete than Tanook, and I love Tanook. So that looks like a steal already. Bo Masco, he's right in that 21-5 wheelhouse area. That's kind of I would say not pedestrian, but it's sort of right in line with the average skill players at Texas. I think like Malik Muhammad was right around that area, 21.5, which is fast enough. Plus he's got the technical skill and the experience to play the position. He's just, he's a good enough athlete. There's no doubt about it. The one player we didn't get a time on him, which I'm still trying to find that because I want that to back this up. But We've heard Justin Carrara is probably faster and quicker than what they're thinking they were getting on tape. And so that's the linebacker from Florida State. They needed a guy that's sort of more of a traditional Mike, and he fits that role as the between the tackles, thumper. But they say he's running and moving a little bit better than they expected. So that was exciting to hear.
I'm always going to be, at least at this point, a little hesitant about like Florida State performance, just because that place is in major disarray right now. And I know some of that has to do with Norvell and money, but like I feel like that's a player who could outperform what maybe people's expectations are of him, because he's going to have better stuff around him here at Texas compared to in Tallahassee.
Yeah, he's got to have a good defensive front. He's experienced, but he's not really experienced. He's been eligible a long time, but he hasn't played a ton. He's played a good amount. So I think there's another gear there within just development and understanding of the game. And Nansen, Muschamp, that's a couple good sets of eyes on him to help develop him. But yeah, he's going to have a lot of. You can protect him with coverage. There's no doubt about that. The coverage assets are there. You got his nickel. Is right there. Is whoever the nickel is going to have great range. They're cross training a bunch of guys there. They're going to cross train a bunch of guys there. Whoever's that nickel is going to have range, and then the safeties behind them have range. The linebacker next to him, whether it's Anthony Smith or Rasheem Biles, is going to have a lot of range. So he can kind of just keep him between the tackles and let him take on guards and just be that physical presence. He doesn't have to be in coverage. You definitely don't. If he's lined up on a running back, that was a bad call.
One good comment here from Jay. Maybe we'll get some height and weight updates. That usually comes like the night before spring football starts, and I've been checking on that pretty regularly just to see if they do throw some things on there. It's pretty easy to tell when it's updated, because I'm not going to see DeAndre Moore and Anthony Hill at the top of the list at number 0. So we're keeping an eye on that. We have Ian Boyd track that. He's got a spreadsheet with all that, and you take those with a grain of salt, because I was going through some NFL Combine stuff that's coming up this week. Some of the guys' listings. We'll see what guys like Jack Hendries and even Anthony Hill. It's going to be important to see how much he measures in at. I'm pretty sure Anthony Hill's probably going to be true to what his
Anthony Hill's going to be. And you're around these guys a lot in the press conferences when they're made available, and I'm around them when they're in high school, and I've kind of got a carny sense of being able to guess height and weight. So I always pour a little water on this roster when it comes down. Like, nah, I don't think so. But it's fun. It's fun, and then you get the number changes too. We've been denoting a bunch of the new numbers on IT with the the influx of guys. Cam Coleman, KJ Lacey having to move to number 9, which number 9 to me is the best number in sports. So I don't know why he wouldn't want that. But yeah, we're anticipating that coming out for spring football, and we always have a lot of fun with it.
We'll have a lot more discussion over on Inside Texas throughout the weekend, a lot more recruiting info, some more schematic stuff coming out tomorrow. So make sure you go to InsideTexas.com. It's that first link in our description. You can use that QR code there at the top of the screen. Join for just $1. You're going to want to check that out. We'll have all the updated recruiting lists. I don't know how many names are on it now. I think it's almost approaching 30 at this point, and that's going to get probably up to 40, 50 as we get closer to spring practices. I know there's a 7-on-7 team that is planning a visit. Don't know the names. They have the date. They're going to bring a lot of players, and there's probably going to be more instances of that. So we'll have a lot of different updates to these lists as we keep going. Portal's definitely not done. I don't want to say definitely not done, but can't rule out any portal additions as the roster is expanded and there's more room. So make sure you go to Inside Texas and join, because we'll have all the latest info there. So Eric, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside the Program, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors.